Halo Combat Evolved is considered by many to be the first video game ever created. It's got levels, gameplay, music, guns, multiplayer, and even graphics. The only problem is, it's not difficult enough, even if you crank up the difficulty and turn on all the skulls. But there's a way to make it harder. Can you beat Halo Combat Evolved without taking any damage? If you're new here or just stupid, I'll explain how this works. Anytime I take damage, I immediately reload the last checkpoint, forcing me to get through this entire game without taking damage. And I'll tell you now, this was brutal. To prepare myself for the mental anguish to come, I practiced in Halo Reach multiplayer. We lost. I'll blame Bob Ross for that one. Dead people shouldn't be allowed to play video games. On to Halo itself. Our story begins where the game released 11 years later left off, with Mr. Chief awaking from his hangover. My emblem is a pink boot because it's a metaphor, but I think you're smart enough to figure out what that metaphor is for yourself. Also, before we go any further, I should point out that I was playing with a PS4 controller and it felt so fucking wrong it's unbelievable. It was so disgusting that Sony took notice and sent the fuzz after me. I don't know what the fuck I did, but I'm like 90% certain the police are on their way. This is fucking weird. Without even getting into combat, just from a purely mechanical point of view, this was easily the worst no damage run I've done yet. The fresh coat of paint and copious amounts of edibles in my system did nothing to help with how janky this game feels. It's so old. Anyway, the story is as basic as a Halo Combat Evolved story gets. We are the Halo, and the Covenant is invading our vessel, and because there are no soldiers anywhere, fleeing is our only option. I got the girl, got the gun, and the real game began. Speaking generally and with a great nasally twang, close quarters are going to be your nightmare in shining armor. The more space between you and what wants to do you harm, the more likely it is that you'll be able to avoid taking damage. That's what makes mental health problems so fun. There is no escape. The first level is not anything too traumatizing. You'd have to be exceptionally stupid to manage to run out of ammo. Disposable allies are all over the place. Using the multiplicative property of future firearms, you can send a single bullet into the dome of a friendly soldier who you suspect may open fire on you after you stick the barrel of your assault rifle deep into their sinuses, and from that one bullet you'll have gotten back many more when their gun lands on the ground next to the corpse you just created. Everything changed when the Fire Nation got grenades. Actually, I wouldn't know. I don't watch stupid kid shows. I'm a 24-year-old adult male. I act like one. I drink and watch professional wrestling. Before long, I reached the escape pod, assured someone that they wouldn't die. We crashed into the ring, and everyone died. Master Chief has the jello layer in his suit. Personally, I keep mine in my socks, but who am I to judge a big metal man? If the soldiers had covered themselves in jello, perhaps they would still be alive today. They would have been like a slippery seal. Think about it. How often do seals get into car accidents? Huh? Now this is what a real Halo is like. Wide open spaces, tons of room to move around and be a gigantic pussy. With how many times I've played this, you'd think I would remember what the point of any of this is. I think we're rescuing soldiers who've been cast out to sea and investigating the mysteries of the ring, trying to figure out why the Forerunners went to Jared instead of getting their ring in a pawn shop like a real man. I'm not sure if there's more to it than that. With as much as I've hyped up being outside, it's really not all it's cracked up to be. The issue here is that unlike later games where plasma projectiles can be dodged with enough skills, or if your thumbs have a stutter, you can't really dodge them in Halo the First. If you're far enough away, maybe you can, but at that point the enemy is going to be so inaccurate that you don't need to dodge, or they just flat out won't care that you're pumping them full of lead. Got friendlies all around and piles of ammo some maniac littered all over the ground. It's manageable. You already know this. The pistol is god tier. With the cannon fodder loaded into the bird, I took one guy and the voice in my head on a road trip into the unknown. The trick is to put other people in harm's way, so you only have to suffer the emotional damage from their demise. He used a turret to watch my spine, I got sticky all over an elite, extendo the bridge, and got to work rescuing the troops. There are 3 of them in total. Now you might be thinking that because of things I've done in the past, that I'd have just killed them all to save time, and I would have done that had I remembered that it was an option when I was playing. Team A was safe and sound. Team 2 survived even if my guide did take some damage in the process. I attempted to fly away with the pretty birdie, should have known it wouldn't have worked since birds aren't real, and proceeded to the 3rd team, which, bad. I tried to do a sweet stunt with the warthog, remembered what the ancient Hawaiians used to say about that shit. Tito always spoke the truth. You know what's annoying? The needler. It takes a moment for the needle to explode and do damage after it hits you. You think you're safe, then BAM! It's like falling face first into a puddle of pine cones. Disastrous all around. Then I accidentally drove off a cliff and had to do the entire third area over again. On to mission 3. It's the stealth mission. Sort of. I fired hundreds of bullets in the span of 90 seconds. I'm pretty sure that's stealth. The Covenant has keys, and it's up to me to get a duplicate made. Despite the overall usefulness of the sniper rifle, a pistol would have been better. I tried to conserve its ammo by relying on the assault rifle, but that ain't the tool for the job. The plasma pistol turned out to be the dark horse of this playthrough. On the easiest difficulty, which I'm playing on obviously, it completely f***ing shreds. Mostly for the same reason it's a bitch when used by an enemy. The giant transparent straw did us the big suck. We was inside the ship, and the infiltration mission began. Stage 1. Hold off against waves of enemies as they flock in from every door. In the room. Should have been flood, not flock. I should preface this by saying that I'm not racist towards aliens, but these guys are dumb as fuck. If they were smart, they would have stormed the room from all doors at once. Enemies can flinch when they take damage, making the assault rifle effective in the corridors. They wised up a bit in the docking room by sending more forces at us at once than they did earlier. Now if you want a good gun, you've got to get that plasma rifle. It's like the plasma pistol, just blue, automatic, and a rifle. I learned quite a bit later that treating it like a rifle by firing one shot at a time rather than going full on big boy spray was the way to go. Most of the Marines were still around, as I hadn't killed them for fun yet. I didn't have to do all the work myself. We found the prison, rescued keys, he learned us that the Covenant are looking for Halo's instruction booklet, and now we're doing the opposite of what we were just doing. With even more bodies to throw at the problem, it was even easier than the deep push inside the flying purple c***. What does that mean? Oh, the ship. The ship. I get it now. Believe it or not, if you kill everyone you see when you break into a prison, getting out will be easier than getting in. Next is the most iconic level in all of Halo 1 levels that take place when this one does. We're storming the bridges of the Enclave to save all of Sovngarde from the clutches of capitalism. I know my Halos like the back of my hand. Look, I even carved a 1 into my left hand to remind me that I'm number 1. That's why myself, a soldier, and an empty seat reserved for my ego trusted my gut and went in the opposite direction. We was right. There's Covenant here and their hideout isn't wheelchair accessible. I'm gonna strangle one of the Muppets for that. If you don't get that joke, please let me know in the comments and I'll explain. See, the sad thing about this joke is that I knew what it was when I wrote it, but I don't remember what it was now. I'm not going to be able to explain it to anyone. Oh, what a shame. Even when sticking one guy in the back with the wheelchair and ramming it into another, we couldn't get inside Walmart. I get it now. It's a sign from God that Walmart needs bigger doors to accommodate my off-road vehicle. I missed the special spot on both hunters, forcing me to face them like a man. Cleaned out the forest gathering spot, entered the underground. The parents, brothers, cousins, friends, or possibly no relation at all hunters came to kill me. Squidward got all reliable from SpongeBob. His door has been unsealed. He's been unleashed, and I get to go kill him. I couldn't get to the bottom of this cliff without taking damage, forcing me to go back around. I thought this area would be empty. I didn't think anyone ever went back this way. I always assumed everyone just jumped off the cliff. This was the first of several monstrous motherfuckers I experienced throughout this playthrough. With limited pistol ammo and infrequent checkpoints, getting to this underground spot was a hellish journey filled with heartbreak and ingenuity. Vehicles don't explode, and Marines are as dependable as they are expendable. Fast and furious, they car into combat, but drift that lazily to the left as you exit and you'll be protected from all harm as they feast on a chorus of superheated plasma. The plan is not without its flaws. Its biggest flaw is that I'm the one executing it. But I was taught in school to never underestimate a man with a boot emblem in a Halo game, and that's why I gave it to myself before I started playing. With my men still very not dead, we cleared the area. I got back in the car, refused to leave her behind, got her most of the way through the doorway, but her big old turret won't fit through the hole. It's okay. I got inside. I'd left them all behind and carried on alone. This wasn't too terrible overall. I made do with what weapons I had initially after going through all my pistol ammo after getting inside. Luckily, this is Pistol the movie, and there's one on the floor sitting in Kool-Aid. More hunters were inside. I very briefly experienced the euphoria of being transparent, killed the big bad elite, cutscened myself deeper into the story, got the location of the central control terminal, fought my way back out the same way I came in. Halo 1 sure loves to do that, and my past came back to haunt me. My car was still hopelessly stuck in the hole I left it in. Brave men stayed inside to plug the hole. I never got it out. I crawled through the driver door, into the back seat, then left it behind again. The level ends with who knows how many invisible elites. They're not completely invisible, so they're not impossible to kill. Without grenades, it certainly probably might be. Next stop, back to more gray interiors. With the might of the Earth government on our side, we commanded the planet to let us get a glimpse of its innards. We entered the Pringles can, and the assault on the control room began. What a mission this was. To explain it simply, the par time for easy is 15 minutes. It took me an hour and 25 minutes. First up is the first of like 1,000 different bridges in this level that are actually identical, not fraternal. Theoretically easy because there's tons of cover, but if you can't see them, they can't see you, which means you could get shot from nowhere and knowing is half the battle, and you can't pass with a 50%. This corridor sections were generally easy, so I'll skip over them unless they were particularly challenging. The big open sequence raised one of my eyebrows in disappointment. There are toys everywhere, it's not too difficult. It's just how far progress you lose if you go to a checkpoint. I played in a tank for a bit in the bag graphics because it was easier to see things. Banshees are introduced here, and if you ever wondered what a with wings looks like, this is it. Rocket launcher can't lock onto them. That's my only real valid complaint. I wiped both sides of a bridge out with a tank, cleaned up the survivors with a handgun, performed as a turtle would in this situation by going slow as with the tank, realized that turtles get turned into soup, abandoned my ideas of speed in favor of mobility, dealt with multiple wraiths and other vehicles thanks to the rocket ammo left behind by the developers when they put it there on purpose, took part in the ground section of the Great Crevice War. There was another bridge that was worse than the first thanks to me not having a precision weapon. There were also enemies on the other side of the bridge shooting at me, and taking them out with an assault rifle or grenades was an unlikely option. I didn't say it was impossible. I did enough damage to the creatures that when I got there myself it was clear, but then there was another one, and another one next to that, and that one on the other side has hunters. This was a rough playthrough. Eventually, after an hour of misery, I got to take to the skies. No, I didn't. First, I killed a man and all his friendlies, stopped one of his flock's loyal followers from kamikazing into me, got inside, and proceeded outside where I fought my way up the Great Pyramid, greeted the Girl Scouts with a rocket launcher, got to the control pod, learned about the Toyota 4Runner and how the Halo is a weapon, and we're off to find keys again. This mission, whatever it's called, was off to a bad start when it took me almost 10 minutes to get inside so I could ride the elevator. Nothing too tricky about it. Standard no damage first-person shooter bullshit on display. Gotta kill dozens of things in close quarters without making any mistakes. I let the lone Marine survive for a long time. I was hoping to find some way to keep him alive. He's demented, traumatized, but I didn't want to save him. I want the opposite. It didn't work. I reviewed the footage from a severed head, and the Flood are here. Now you might be thinking that dealing with the Flood in Halo 1 without taking damage would be the gamer equivalent of getting a colonoscopy with a cactus. And you'd be right. Individually, the baby Flood are hardly a threat. If they're bunched up, a single AR bullet could kill 10 or more. The monster people aren't quite as nice. Some are melee only. They're tolerable. The ones with guns are not. They're like elites, only they're less prone to melee attacks and are more sporadic than elites. They throw caution to the wind. They feel the rush of power coursing through their veins like a Discord mod after they ban a 14-year-old. I absorbed the invisibility bubble, helped out for a bit. The shotgun is the star of this level. It's why you're given it here for the first time. The other big issue with the adult Flood men is that they're sent in larger numbers than Covenant trash. Back towards the beginning of the level, a giant horde of Marines were assigned to me to be killed at my discretion. This level felt like it was the biggest departure from the OG graphics. I got scooped up by the robot, and the library began. This is probably the level you were waiting for. It was a bad one, but it was condensed suffering, back to back with little room in between. Besides the small Flood crawling towards you at nearly all times, so you've got to constantly be moving to not take damage from them, you're frequently told to hold off in a sealed off area. The small upside is that on easy, the shotgun is garbage tier usually, but here up against the Flood, it's overpowered as f***. It evolved. To give a real-life comparison, it's like being the ugly kid in your class and then having me get transferred into your class. Initially, I thought this was gonna be like Cortana from Halo 3 all over again. About 15 minutes in, I started to understand how to go about getting through this level. The water balloon Flood can be popped to chain reaction their brothers into the world of organic confetti. The pistol is useful to trigger them from a safe distance, and it's also fairly effective against combat forms. They're good soldiers. A single bullet to the head doesn't stop them. They're very loyal, like the 30 people who messaged me on Twitter saying they're willing to get shot in the head with a magic 8-ball just because I asked if anyone was willing to explode their dome with a children's toy. I really should start a cult. Sentinels show up to save the day from time to time. There's not any real story shit to be talking about. I've got the blue lady back in my head. I'm traveling to the control core to finally stop Handsome Jack. I've already talked about everything I can with the library. It's the same thing over and over again. By now you've seen at least 90 seconds of gameplay from this level, so you've seen it all. The library took me just over an hour to complete, and the next one started off horrifically, with unavoidable damage. Cortana learns that the Halo weapon doesn't kill the Flood, it starves them to death. It's efficiency on a cosmic scale. Of course it seems like a bad idea to you. This is big picture shit. Even I don't get it. Sentinels open fire the instant the level loads, with 6 or 8 different Sentinels all firing. Avoiding them isn't something that can happen. I took damage once, got to cover, used the charging homie to take out the Sentinels, backtracked through the building I just fought through that's now full of Covenant again, skedaddled my way down the pyramid, and got good and f***ed. I got a checkpoint right behind this boulder, with a plasma pistol and a shotgun, an elite, a normal elite, and a handful of grunts that need to be dispatched of quickly before 2 more elites, more grunts, and jackals wander over to investigate the noise. I'm not even gonna mention how I wasted so many minutes by entering the door to the left and riding the elevator before realizing I went the wrong way. From the time I got that checkpoint that hurt me so dearly until I got my next one, which happened to be in a Banshee in the sky, almost 20 minutes had passed. Don't think that this means playtime is over. Not only has it not even begun, we're still in the car. We haven't even walked into the building yet. I've got to overload 3 different pulse generators to stop the flying ball man from destroying all life in the galaxy. I'll set the stage again by giving the raw numbers. This mission, 2 betrayals, took me just under 2 hours. I'm not gonna go too in depth in the rest of the game. You can rest easy knowing that from the time this level started until the real game was over, not a second went by that I didn't hate playing this game. Maybe now's a good time to mention that this video has been in the works for more than 2 years. I started the Halo Combat Evolved No Damage playthrough for the first time less than a week after I released my Halo 2 No Damage video, which came out in January 2019. It's taken me that long to finally make it because I can't overly say that I'm fond of Halo Combat Evolved. As difficult as Halo 2, 3, and 4 were, I had fun replaying them. I didn't really enjoy Halo 1. Now the Flood and the Covenant are involving themselves in my mental civil war. I tried letting them fight it out, but it takes too long and that doesn't work out too well. It didn't help that I was stuck with a shotgun and a plasma repeater, and while the plasma is fairly accurate when used in short bursts, it's no replacement for the pistol. I'd also switched over to the keyboard and mouse, which was the right call because it let me be a lot more accurate, but outside of Fallout and Skyrim, I'm a controller guy. In less tense encounters, the keyboard approach let me be fairly decent at the game. When multiple enemies are attacking at once and the panic sets in, I'm not able to perform hardcore gaming maneuvers with the dexterity of a real gamer. It didn't help my sanity that this mission feels like the same 3 rooms rotating over and over again for more than 90 minutes. Circular room with enemies on the perimeter and loitering on the diameter. A corner hallway with a door, then a long corridor with enemies who jump out from the sides or from around the corner when you reach the end. Another rounded rectangular area, another bridge, more banshees, another square area, an elevator that couldn't handle the neutron style, outside opportunity exposed herself to me by giving me a pistol and a rocket launcher, I had to handle a wraith and a banshee and other shit, destroyed the second generator, flew inside the building, we've been here multiple times too, another outside urban conflict area that took forever, and after so much pain, I finally got to the real hurt. I'm pushing through flood-infested landscapes to find my keys. I'll give you a hint regarding how this went. I started keys on January 21st, and today is February 16th. That's how it went. This is a quantity problem. The Flood are being their name. They're everywhere. Imagine if everywhere you went was like the Horde section in the library. That's what this is like. Ammo for good guns like the assault rifle or shotgun are limited. Sprinting in between enemies and dodging projectiles doesn't really work with how many enemies there are. The only option you have is to camp in the corners and wait for enemies to come to you. Just getting to the ship took me 20 minutes. The par time for this level is only 15 minutes. Combine the annoyance of shotting and gunning through a Covenant ship with the joy of 1,000 overgrown parasites trying to stick their fingers down your throat, and you've got keys. It took some doing to get the keys. Several sections tested my patience in ways I only thought I was capable of doing to myself. But after 45 SSD, B, and C profanity minutes later, I found him. gave him the JFK treatment, and was greeted with an army. Seriously, the number of motherfuckers I had to gently put to sleep with a bullet was staggering. Between the flood that fills this room from 3 different angles at once and the Covenant inside the hallways, it's easily at least 35 different things to kill. When I said earlier that I didn't enjoy my time with this game, I was being polite. I was so tired of Halo 1, I skipped the rest of Keys and moved on to the Maw. The final mission, where we're finally back in the Pillar of Autumn, just like the first mission. Remember, isn't this a fun callback? In total, I spent about half an hour with this mission. From what I recall, having played it about 25 minutes ago, there wasn't any one part that was overwhelmingly difficult. It's the final mission, and at times it feels like there are infinitely respawning enemies. They're like me doing shots, they just don't know when to quit. There were some sentinels that I managed to avoid being damaged from by sneakily walking directly to cover without moving the camera. Took them out, fled the scene. There were so many f***ing things to kill, it was unbelievable. At one point I got myself backed into a hallway where I thought I was gonna have to make my final stand on the catwalk, while bitching to myself about how I knew I should have bought perks instead of YOLOing all my points on the mystery box just to end up with a f***ing rocket launcher and Molotovs. Even deeper into the mission were some hunters. They're fun to deal with in close quarters when you can't take damage, and more sentinels who are dreadfully accurate. The situation went from bad to worse when I ran out of ammo for all my guns. I bet you didn't think that could happen in a Halo game. Knowing what was to come, and remembering how I'd already failed, and how I'd already delayed this video twice, and how it already took me 2 years to make it, I took one for the team and ended the playthrough early. Failed on purpose. But technically, I succeeded in failing on purpose. This one isn't a win or a loss. I'll put this one in the draw category, next to the Mitten Squad OnlyFans t-shirt idea. And I did not beat Halo Combat Evolved without taking any damage. I can't believe I forgot to say that in the fucking voiceover. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server by going to mitten.land. That's in the description of the video. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad or Mitten Prime. That's one I have too. What am I even doing here? My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.